get into it. So we're talking about selling a home fast, or how to sell your home fast today, right?
Yes, sir.
I guess it's a maybe not a common question, but definitely a question that people encounter depending on their situation, right? And they start looking at different options, like what are my options if I want to sell my home fast? And when you and I were discussing this earlier, it's like fast can be a relative term,
For
right?
sure.
Fast for you might be 2 weeks, fast for me might be a month. So everybody's situation is a little bit different. So it's important to determine how fast you need to sell it and then the reason behind it, right? Um, because I'm sure you've experienced people that maybe they think they want to do something within a certain timeline and they're like, they feel like it's rushed or maybe, but on your end, maybe it seems like it's enough time, or they seem like it's a lot of time, but you're thinking that's we need to start acting now, and they're thinking they still have maybe a few weeks or a month to act, right?
Definitely. I mean, that's why the initial consultation is so important, right? Because
Yeah,
there's different things, right? You could one client might want to sell at the highest price possible. Well, that isn't always the most important thing to someone. That timeline can be very important. I mean, we talked about it earlier was, there's people who inherit a property and, a family member passes away and they might be out of state. Do they want to deal with that headache? Do they want to fly out here and, understand the market that property is in? And, it could be a headache for
yeah,
someone that is out of state.
right. And if they're out of state, it could be that they have multiple parties that are involved in that inherited property, or it could just be one person that inherited the home. They might want to come to the property and maybe get some valuable personal belongings, or it might not be of any interest for them to go to the property and get anything, and they just want to be able to either clear everything out or get it liquidated or whatever, and not have to deal with it. But I guess let's start there. Like if maybe someone wanting to sell a home fast due to it being inherited, okay, and maybe they're out of state, right? What are their options typically? If they want to sell it fast, let's assume they don't want anything from the home. They don't want to deal with clearing it out. What's an option? So let's go with option number one, which is the option that you and I know best, which is selling through a realtor, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're selling with a realtor doesn't mean you can't sell the home fast. Um, Obviously, you can now with the internet and things like that, you can kind of vet the person that you're thinking about at least interviewing, without necessarily meeting them in person. Like you and I are here in two different places, and we're able to see each other and talk on video and have a conversation, in-depth conversation. And nowadays too with realtors, it's like I know we type your name or my name in Google, and we're going to come up, and there's going to be reviews, and there's going to be past client experiences, and there's some videos of us online speaking about our experience and what we've done for other clients and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, that's something that has been very helpful, right? Having an initial conversation, whether in person or not in person. I think going through a realtor, as we were talking about, the connections,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The expertise and the connections is one reason why you would want to use a realtor.
yeah,
Being in the business that we have long enough, we know if we want to sell a home fast, biggest piece of advice is going to be through like a pricing strategy,
yeah, absolutely.
because pricing a property competitively, usually that means a little bit under market value, is just going to draw the
I think I
most
lost you there for a
eyeballs.
second.
And that's the most important thing when you're going to sell quickly, because you're going to get traditional buyers, right? You're going to be able to market to traditional buyers, and you're going to be able to market to investors. And that's what
Yeah,
using a realtor is going to bring, because those are clientels that we are working with in the industry daily.
Yeah, and the biggest benefit of listing with a realtor is that your property goes on the MLS, so it gets the most eyeballs. Even if it's an inherited property, even if it's maybe a major fixer or whatever, not only does the general public that's searching for a home in that neighborhood see it, but the investors are also going to see it. So
Yep.
you're going to just get more eyes and more potential offers on your property, and you'll be able to sell at a higher price than maybe just dealing with one individual person or one individual offer. And even if you
Right.
sell with the realtor, you can still accept a cash offer and have the escrow be faster. But at least you had the benefit of, if you want to be able to list it on the MLS and have the most eyeballs on it as possible.
Yeah.
Now, there's realtors like us, so we already have relationships with cash buyers and investors as well. So if the client doesn't want to list it on the market, we can also push it out to our existing investors and see which ones are willing to put a cash offer and make it a quick close without going through the process of putting it on the market or something like that, or maybe something about the property doesn't they don't want to show, or it doesn't show well online, or whatever the case might be. Obviously, it's always recommended, if possible, to list it on the market for that reason, where you get the most eyeballs and you build some competition. But there's always the option for experienced realtors like us to be able to pump it out to our investor list and be able to get a buyer, a quick buyer right off the bat. And not only do they get the benefit of now having us also being able to kind of give some guideline on what's going on. Is this a good offer? Should we pump it out to more people? But they also have boots on the ground if they're out of town, right? We were able to go to the property. We're able to do a video and show them what's going on, or see something that they might not be able to see unless they were there in person, and be able to relay that information over to them, and basically be their eyes and ears on the ground locally close to the property.
Well, yeah, and that is why you go through a realtor, right? It's that expertise, and even coming up with additional strategies, right? You can list the property below market value, and you're going to attract eyeballs, but also you can incentivize buyers in other ways, right? Hey, maybe the seller is willing to pay a portion of your closing costs. Hey, buyers, come in. Not only do we have a hot property because of the market price, the listing price, but also we'll help you out with some of those out of pocket expenses. Right? That's another way we can market to those additional buyers out on the market to draw more eyeballs.
Or if on the other spectrum too, if it's a very competitive price on a very competitive neighborhood, you might have buyers or investors that are willing to cover the seller's costs, which is also always ideal, especially if it's a property that is a fixer and they need to invest some money in it to maybe either keep it as a rental or fix and flip it. Here's one thing that I think is probably the best part about listing a property on the MLS, where it's inherited, where the property's vacant, is there's some people that are looking online, and they're maybe going to use it as their primary residence, and they have the know-how or the connections or the family that works in construction, where they're willing to put in the work to fix it,
Yeah.
right? Even though they know it needs work. But those people that are going to live in it, they're willing to pay a little bit more than what the investor is going to pay, due to them not needing to make a profit on it. They just want a home that they can get in. They're willing to put a little bit of money in to fix it and stay there long term. They're going to pay more than the investor that maybe wants to fix it, flip it, and needs to make a certain margin in order, or a specific amount of profit, or an investor even that's going to keep it long term and be able to rent it. Obviously, they have to figure out and analyze their cash flow. Is the price that I'm buying at going to cash flow, and things like that? So in general, you're going to get some lower price offers from investors, and nowadays what we're seeing too a lot is wholesalers. They're coming in, they're trying to get it on a low price and maybe flip that to one of their investors on the back end, and either double close it or assign the contract to somebody else. And and that's kind of another like a new age benefit of having an experienced realtor like us that works with investors, works with uh, primary residence owners, people that want to buy a property to live in, is we can also see the offer and be able to explain to our client, okay, this person looks like they want to keep it as their family home. They want to fix it up and they want to buy it and stay in it. Or this person, based on the way they wrote the contract, it looks like they might want to wholesale it. Kind of depend. They're sending an offer under the name of an LLC or something like that. We're able to kind of see the difference. Where maybe somebody that doesn't look at real estate contracts or work in real estate transactions on a daily basis catch those little details, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, look, we're here in Southern
I think you froze
California.
up on me on there again.
Oh, how about now? Good.
Oh yeah, there you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, being here in Southern California, there are buyers out there that want to purchase properties, and in those slow and challenging months, not to toot our own horn, but hiring a realtor is going to make a really big difference. We've seen those properties that are for sale by
I'm losing you.
owners,
I'm losing you.
and they just don't get enough
You
eyeballs
there?
on.
There you are.
Okay, my bad. Yeah. Yeah, so in those slow months, hiring a realtor in those challenging markets is just going to be beneficial because we've seen those for sale by owner properties that they don't get enough eyeballs on them, and it could be a great property, a first time home buyer or a fixer for someone, but not having the right strategy to get enough eyeballs on it just
Yeah,
makes it really tough, especially if you're on a timeline and you want that home to sell quickly.
I'm losing you. Something's off with our Wi-Fi today.
Dang.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
You there?
Uh, so hopefully they caught all that.
Yeah, I probably missed some of it, but I think
No, no.
got cut off with you was for sale by owner, not getting as many eyeballs,
Yeah.
and maybe even not getting to the for sale by owner part. Maybe just receiving that postcard or letter to your home. Hey, I want to buy your home. I want to place an offer for you. You're only dealing with one individual at that point, or you know maybe you get two postcards from two different people. It's only two, as opposed to posting it on online and getting a plethora, while at the same time having the ability to count on your experienced realtor to help navigate those waters and help dissect the offers that are coming in and really get to the nitty gritty and is this person really going to close, or is this person going to get into contract and then do an inspection and try to renegotiate to a ridiculous price reduction, or what exactly is going on, right? And I'll share an example with you. Well, actually, we'll talk about this example a little bit more ahead in the podcast, because this isn't a client that necessarily was from out of state or inherited the property, but she was living at the property and was moving out of state. So a little bit different situation. She did have a timeline, but so we touched a little bit on, okay, I inherited a property. I'm not in the state. How do I sell it? How do I sell it fast? Another thing would be a person that, so that we can touch on this example that I have, is I live in the property now. I need to sell it fast within a certain timeline, but the timeline needs to coincide with the home that I'm going to buy wherever I'm moving to, whether it's in state or out of state. The client that I had was out of state. She was moving to Pennsylvania, and she lived right here in Orange County. And she had already found the home that she wanted. She placed a deposit to reserve. It was a new construction home. She wanted to move to that state to be close to her son and her grandkids. So she had a specific timeline, and she also had a specific dollar amount that she needed to sell in order to sell her home and not have to have a mortgage on the home that she was going to purchase in Pennsylvania. So she walks into my office. She saw one of my mailers that I sent her. She walks into my office, and she brings me a stack of letters and postcards from investors, like, hey, I want to buy your home, or I'll place an offer on your home, and things like that. And so we sat down. Hey, why do you want to sell? What's the reason behind it? And so she explains to me she lives by herself. She's retired. She rents one of the rooms to help with the bills and things like that. But ultimately, what she wants to do, and she had a mortgage still, right? Ultimately, what she wanted to do was be mortgage free. She didn't want to have to make a mortgage payment. She wanted to move to Pennsylvania to be closer to her family, right? So we start talking about her timeline and things like that. She's showing me all these investor offers that she's getting without even looking at them. I said, look, how much do you need to make the move? So we start talking numbers. She tells me what she needs to buy for. She's telling me how much money she has. And we realize that in order for her to have enough, she needs to sell at or close to the top of the market in that neighborhood. Now, her home wasn't recently remodeled. It had original cabinets. It was clean. It was in good shape, but it wasn't a brand new remodel that just got brand new flooring and brand new kitchen put in. It had more of like an original feel, but was very well kept, very well taken care of. But it had its little details that happen with older homes. Maybe like the wood fence in the back is a little older. It was leaning a little bit. Some concrete damage here. Little things like that, right? That an older home is going to have.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, my guess is these offers that you're getting are probably somewhere between 70 to 80% of what the retail value of your home is. And I mean, without knowing, but knowing, I hit the nail on the head. And what she told me that the offers that she was receiving from these investors was pretty much 70, 75% of what she could actually get on the MLS, right?
Yeah.
But for her, it's like if she were to accept one of those offers, she wouldn't have enough to purchase her new home cash. She would be shy, probably, close to $100,000. Her home sold for 740. So she was getting offers in the 500s, high 500s, maybe low 600s at max. So we talked about it. We you know got her timeline in order, and we listed her home and we sold it at top of the market at 740. And it was, I would call it maybe not a major fixer, but it definitely didn't have the most recently updated look. It had cabinets that were older, but they were in good shape. They were wood, original wood, so they could definitely be spruced up to look great. But the countertops weren't quartz or granite. It was more of like a manufactured wood type of feel. And the flooring was okay. And you know the layout was decent, but ultimately she was able to sell her home and buy her brand new home cash in Pennsylvania and not have to have a mortgage, which wouldn't have been the case if she sold to an investor. Now, some people,
And did she have a hard timeline, or she was a little flexible with it?
at first she had a little more flexibility, but then the timeline became a little more hard when she got her home in Pennsylvania and she put her deposit, and they're like, okay, we are going to close on this date on your property here in Pennsylvania. So now we're like, okay, we need to have this home sold by then so that she can come in and pay cash for that home, and be able to close on time on her end, right? Now, she was able to stay with her son for a few weeks and things like that. So we ended up closing a little bit early here so that she can go and stay with her family until she was able to close on her home, which was very close to her family's home anyway. So, yeah, that was a unique situation, but a lot of people, I feel like, come around those scenarios, and they're getting all these letters or these mailers, and people want to buy their home. And she's an older lady. She didn't work in real estate, and she didn't have her family here in Orange County. Her son was on the other side of the country. And you know luckily she found an honest realtor like me that was able to kind of dissect everything. Not to toot my own horn, but I do right by my clients, and I'm asking them what their goals are, and what they want to do and why they want to do it, so that I can help them to the best of my ability and so that they're able to do what they want to do. And for her, she wants to ride off into the sunset, into retirement, enjoy her grandkids, enjoy her family, and you know, I was able to luckily help her do that, and she was very grateful, and we still talk to this day. She's a very sweet lady. So
Oh, that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, that's that's a scenario that happens too. Is like, hey, sometimes we need to be able to talk to another person that's more experienced in this specific realm of business. In this case, selling your home, which to her, it's like that was a huge investment that she's paid and saved for her whole life, and now was going to help her retire and live the way she wanted to live because she was getting some retirement income coming in, but it wasn't enough for her to like really enjoy retirement because she still had a mortgage payment basically. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And it kind of leads into, if somebody is on a hard timeline, is making repairs or doing renovations or staging, is that conducive to a fast sale?
Yeah, and then in her case, she would not only was it not conducive because it would take too long, but she didn't have the money to renovate the property.
Yeah.
So she needed to sell it as is. um, we helped with a little bit of paint and stuff like that, and I just had my guys go over there and paint some of the wood that needed to be painted and cleaned up, and take some of the trash that needed to be taken out. And I mean, I already have these guys on call, so we just covered that as part of our service. And I sent the guys over. They took out all of the trash from the backyard that they needed to take out. We're there for one day, did the paint job that they needed on the exterior of the home, and that was it. Everything else was kind of ready to go. The inside was already pretty clean. Um, so I helped her out. Otherwise, she would have had to been, talking to some people maybe online. I know she said the person she was renting to was telling her that he was going to help her, but he, was kind of taking longer than expected, and little things like that. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna call this guy, Agustin, get over there. He gets over there with his guys, clears it up, and then we're able to list it and kind of stay on the timeline that we need to. Um, so yeah, that's another scenario. Now let's talk about someone buying a home with a loan, because that's a whole different animal, right? Buying a home with a loan, and maybe even if it's in state, there's a lot more moving parts, right? Because the mortgage part up front. So now you have different timelines,
You
right?
know, you this is gonna be funny, but you froze, and I didn't catch that
Did
last
I
part.
froze? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you,
We're good
but
now or what?
uh, yeah,
Still
you're good.
frozen?
You're good now. No, no, you're
Okay.
good.
Wi-Fi issues today, guys. Wi-Fi issues. No, I was saying, okay, she's selling a home. Excuse me, but she's buying cash, selling a home, and buying another home with a loan. So now you have a specific timeline.
Yes,
Am I going through? Yeah, yeah. So now we have a specific timeline, but um, you got to deal with the pre-approval first, make sure that the proceeds of the sale are going to be enough, and then work within that timeline. But maybe that won't be too much of a sell my home fast, because you still got to find the home that you want to buy. Unless you find the home that you want to buy and your home's not listed yet, and
that's
you
a tough
place an
one.
offer on that, when your offer gets accepted, now you need to sell your home fast, because you need to be able
Yeah,
to close on time on that one.
yeah, and I've run into that similar in the sense that I had a very active pre-approved buyer ready to go, and sure enough, we ended up finding the house at the not before listing, but right at the same time as listing. Right, so we listed
Okay.
the property, and that weekend we actually found the property and wrote an offer, got it accepted,
Oh,
and that timeline is definitely more difficult because if you don't prep your buyer and say, we may have to take the first offer that comes through, uh, because if not, it could affect this deal. Thankfully, we were in such a hot market that her property was snatched up quick.
Nice.
Um, but prepping a client for that sort of timeline was key,
Yeah.
because it's not, usually I'm a cool, calm, collected person, but if you're working on a timeline, you almost get worried that the offers that come through are not going to be what you need them to be. In her case, thankfully they worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, because if she gets her offer accepted, but maybe they don't have a ready and willing buyer on their end the same weekend, now we got to be asking for extensions on the purchase and, you know, things like that, which the seller on that end wants to close on their timeline as well. Maybe they have another purchase or a specific
It's
timeline
just
on their end, and so yeah, it definitely gets complex on that end, and that's where it helps having a realtor to kind of help navigate those muddy waters and kind of show with their experience what the best path and more efficient way to go about it is. Um, Now let's jump to maybe a whole different scenario where someone needs to sell a home fast, but it's for a particular reason, maybe a, tough times type of reason, like a notice of default or in
yeah,
foreclosure and things like that. So in California, notice of default and foreclosure, it's different per state, right? But in California, I believe it's a note you have 90 days from when you get your notice of default to get caught up. Otherwise, you get your notice of sale, right? So let me
yes,
actually notice of default to. I want to make sure we give everybody the right information to notice of sale, California. Yeah, you have 90 days from the date of notice of default, from when the notice of default is recorded, to pay the amount that you owe. If you
yeah,
pay it, if you pay the amount of the notice of default, the lender cannot sell your home. If you don't pay within 90 days, a notice of trustee sale will be recorded against your property, which means they're going to try to auction off your home. Or if it doesn't sell when they're trying to do the trustee sale, then they'll go into what they call foreclosure and foreclose on your home and take the home back, basically. Um, so for that, I mean, we're on a very limited timeline, 90 days, right?
yeah,
And even if maybe even if you don't want to sell it and you're trying to figure out a way to keep your home, um, talking to an experienced realtor could help with that. It's like, hey, how can we navigate these waters? We have maybe X amount, we have this amount that we're looking to get caught up on, and is it feasible or what can we do to maybe slow down the sale to keep the home or whatever. But if you get to a point where you've had this notice of default maybe for 2 months, you have another 30 days. um, it's the clock is ticking and you're running out of time, and you need to sell your home fast. And if you're going to sell the home, you don't want to wait until it's too late and you have to sell to a cash investor and you have to just call that postcard that you have, because now you don't have the time to really get the most money out of your property. You have to sell to someone that's going to sell quick, that's going to buy it quick, and you're probably going to leave some money on the table if that's the case. So it's a tough situation to navigate, um, but it's important to kind of act fast and figure out all your options if you are in that situation. Are you there?
yes. I heard it's
Go ahead.
important to act fast. But can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it goes back to having a professional in the industry, right? Because it's very likely that you and I have been through this before, and being able to ground that client and really be realistic and let them know that the best time to sell your property is when you have some time to get it to put it on the market and have it marketed truly the best way possible if you want the most money. But
Yeah.
like you said, if we're talking about timelines, a lot of times this is such an emotional type of sale that clients
Yeah.
often are going to wait to the end of that timeline, and then the strategy changes, which is going to be, we need to potentially take this property at a discount,
Yeah.
and
I
you would
mean,
just hope.
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Yeah, and you would just hope that um, you're at least breaking even versus having to sell it to a true investor who is only looking to get a property at a significant discount.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously being in foreclosure or notice of default it's an unfortunate situation. It's not a fun situation for the homeowner. Nobody wants to be in that position where they have to make those hard decisions, because it's not an ideal situation. But it is important to, get to the decision making process and act fast, whether it's a combination of acting fast to do what you can to try to keep your home and figure out what to do, um, or if it's possible, maybe you can do a loan modification, maybe you can do a forbearance, and if those options are exhausted, and maybe they don't get approved, then you want to have a reliable, experienced realtor that can help you sell it and navigate the sale of that home in an already stressful situation, where if you don't have a realtor that's kind of helping you vet the offers and vet the maybe investors or even end buyers, it turns a already stressful situation into an even more stressful situation,
Yeah,
because they can even help you get some rent back or uh, some time to find a new place to live if the answer ends up being like, I have to sell this home or I'm gonna lose it and foreclose on it and give up all my equity to the bank. You definitely should not do that, especially right now when a lot of people have equity. Do not let the bank foreclose. You're better off selling it. Also, with the foreclosure, that stays on your record for a long time. It's going to be difficult for you to fix your credit. It's going to take years. If there's a foreclosure on your credit, it's going to take years for you to get that to get that fixed. If you have some late payments and you're just behind, but you end up selling the home and you pay off that loan, it's not nearly as bad as if there's a foreclosure on your record. It's going to be a lot harder to buy a home in the future, and it's going to affect your credit for a lot longer, which also affects, getting cars, getting credit cards, and all that stuff. Um, but if you're able to kind of salvage your credit, get some money from the sale, and start over in a sense, right?
yeah,
Um, it's good to be able to talk to somebody instead of waiting till the last second, because you're kind of putting it off for whatever the reason might be, and then really truly having to rush. Anytime we need to rush in making decisions, the stress level goes higher, right? And now we're maybe not necessarily vetting all the offers or have the time to get more eyeballs on this home, to get a higher, because if you have this home and you have to give it up or you have to sell it, even though you don't want to, you might as well get the most money you can out of it so that your new chapter in your life starts in the right direction, starts on the right path. What you don't want to do is you don't want to wait and have to sell it at a bargain for the other buyer when you necessarily maybe have a great product that you can sell at a great price on the MLS or on the market with the realtor. Um, I know sometimes human nature is kind of put off that difficult decision making, but I would highly encourage anybody that's in this situation to, just because you talk to a realtor doesn't mean they're going to list your property on day one. There's a lot of conversations. There's There's back and forth, talking about options and everything like that, and talk to somebody that's not going to be commission hungry. Somebody that's truly experienced. They want to help you navigate these waters, and if you have to sell, they will be there for you. But maybe they can speak from experience with other past clients and help you try to save your home at all cost until the decision is made that the home has to be sold, right? And at
Yeah,
least that person can help you sell it and salvage your credit so that they can help you buy a home in the future as well. Especially if you're able to get into some equity savings from the home. You're able to kind of stash that away. Maybe you need to pay some bills or whatever you need to get taken care of after selling the home. But it sets you up in a position to purchase in the future and not have to hit rock bottom when it comes to your credit situation.
for sure. Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're on such a time crunch that you're 30 days from needing to be out of the home, it's very very likely that the best way that you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on it is that you take a discount, and that's essentially what we would try to avoid by getting the process started early, or at least going through your options well in advance.
Yeah, yeah, ultra important. And I have a very unfortunate story of a client. Well, this person was never necessarily my client, but he used to live in California, and we spoke from time to time. He was looking at buying a home in California and things like that. So we had several conversations. Ultimately, he moved to Nebraska. He purchased a home in Nebraska, and I believe Lincoln, Nebraska. And the laws are different in Nebraska than they are in obviously in California, but he received some type of supplemental tax bill from the county, and his taxes and insurance were joined with his payment. His regular taxes and insurance,
Mm.
escrowed, joined with his payment. But he received this supplemental tax bill and he didn't pay the supplemental tax bill. He continued
Oh,
making his
shoot.
mortgage payment. His lender also did not pay the supplemental tax bill, and his home got auctioned off and sold before he even realized it. Okay. So then he calls me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, I need help. I need to know what's going on with this. I'm getting this letter that I need to vacate my home, but it's my house. Why do they want me to vacate my home?" And I'm kind of taken aback. I'm like, "That's kind of weird." I'm like, "Who's sending you this letter?" He's like, "It's this
Yeah.
company." And then he goes off, and the county was asking me for this and that, and he's an older gentleman. I'm like, I'm trying to make sense of everything. So then I'm like, "Give me your property address. Let me do some research. I'll get back to you." And so I started researching, and sure enough, there's a different owner on title, a company, and that company
No.
bought his home on auction months ago. And he said he got all these notices. I think it was a duplex, and he lived in the back house, and the front house was empty. And he was getting all these notices put on his property, and he just ignored them all. And they auctioned his home, and he no longer was the owner of his home, even though all his mortgage payments were paid on time. All his regular taxes were paid on time. He missed this supplemental tax bill for whatever the tax bill was. I'm not sure those details. But he lost his home because he ignored all these notices that he was getting from the county, and they auctioned off the property and they sold it. So don't let that happen to you people out there. Do not ignore. Don't brush it under the rug. Hey, I'm a Latino. That's what we do. We brush problems under the rug. We'll deal with them later. It doesn't
Mhm.
always work out the best for us. So get on that and talk to somebody that's experienced, and don't let your home get sold out from under you and lose all the equity that you've been working for. If you have to
Yeah.
sell, if you're forced to sell, even though you don't want to, at least tap into the equity that you've earned, and start over nice and fresh. You know what I mean? So that, yeah, that
Agreed.
was a tough situation for him.
100%.
You know, it
Um,
was I've
are
only
you
talked
frozen, by the way? You look frozen on my end.
oh yeah, 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 sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Real quick, I wanted to get your reaction to something. I
Yeah.
was reading the LA Times, and here's the headline: Looking to buy or sell a home this spring? Here's what to expect: high borrowing rates, low inventory, high prices. Gerardo, is this what you're seeing out there in the market?
Yes. Yes. And that's why if you need to sell fast, put it on the market. I mean, even with these higher rates, because of the low inventory, people are buying and there's competition out there for these properties, you know.
Yeah.
So um, these headlines like this, it might make it seem to everybody else like no one's buying, but at least in the market that we're in, Southern California, LA, Orange County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, San Diego County, any of these areas, they're very competitive and people want to live there. And there's a lot of people already here and there's a lot of demand for properties. So if you need to sell your home fast, you're in these areas, talk to a realtor. You're going to get the most money for your property with a realtor listing it on the MLS. Your other options are to sell directly to an investor and you're going to sell it at a discount to them. And so maybe you waited till the last second and that's what you need to do. And sometimes that is just what it is, right? um, but it doesn't hurt to have a conversation with the realtor and maybe they give you a second opinion. Maybe you're like, hey, experienced realtor Gerardo or experienced realtor Lorenzo, I'm about to accept this offer. Give me your 2 cents on what you think. Should I do it? Should I not? Here's a timeline I'm working with. I'm about to lose the house. It doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. You know, those are free,
No,
you know. But
exactly.
the cost of maybe selling your home at a discount, that's not free. That definitely has a price that goes with it. So let's talk about one more scenario really quick and then we can kind of move on to our funny real estate story of the day and maybe answer some podcast listener questions. So the other thing would be I need to sell my home. Maybe I need to sell it fast or not. And I inherited the property and the property is in terrible shape, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's got a lot of trash on it. Maybe there's a lot of just furniture and just a lot of things there that need to be cleared out. And it's not necessarily the property that shows the easiest or the best or easy to nap. You know, sometimes we look at properties and um, you know, there's just a lot of stuff inside the home. So it's not like they want a crowd of people walking through there
No.
and digging through all that stuff or anything like that, or having an open house and anybody can come in at any time. And those are definitely situations, right? When somebody has homes like that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's happened countless times. Whether I was representing buyers or sellers, that there's an embarrassment, or maybe they don't even want to go through the headache of listing it traditionally. So
Yeah,
working, it kind of goes back to working with someone who's in the industry, who has, like you said, their boots on the ground.
yeah,
Because I have not only investors that are looking to buy, but a lot of times there's people already in the neighborhood that want a second home there because of, they want family to live nearby, they want parents to live nearby, that they will let me know, hey, if something ever comes up in this market, in this neighborhood, please let me know. And
yeah.
we as realtors have those people in our database, in our contact list, and leveraging us is going to be really beneficial, even if you don't want that sign on your yard and you don't want
Yeah.
countless people coming through the property.
Which you know is a good thing to point. Just because you list with the realtor doesn't mean you're going to have a sign in your front yard. You don't have to have a sign in your front yard and you don't have to list it on the MLS, but you're still going to have the benefit of working with an experienced person that's going to help you dissect these contracts. It's going to make sure that you're in a good position with the offer that you're accepting. where let's just say I have, somebody needs to sell their home, they have a lot of trash in the home for whatever the reason might be, and they don't want a huge crowd there, and they don't want to list it on the MLS, they don't want their neighbors to know it's for sale, they don't want the public to know, family to know, or whatever reason. A realtor can still help you with that. And we can pump it out to our buyers and maybe just go with one person at a time so that we don't open it up to huge crowds. It's by appointment only. And that person can choose to be there or not. Maybe they're gone for a weekend and we show it that weekend, and we can do that heavy lifting for them without listing it on the MLS for everybody to know, or we can list it on the MLS but just not put a sign out in their front yard. Those are all
Exactly.
things that you can work through with your realtor, depending on your unique situation, and still sell it at the time that you want to be, that you want the property to be sold, and still, be able to show it only to a limited amount of people, or hey, I only want somebody to come in here that's a serious buyer. Then we vet those people for them, like I know this person's going to close if it's the right situation for him to buy, or I know that I'm not bringing just tire kickers to just walk through this home just for whatever reason they can't actually buy it, because we verify that they have financing or that they have proof of funds to be able to make this purchase, right? And we know what to look for, and we know how to review the assets to make sure, hey, he's not giving me somebody else's bank statement, and pretending to have the money that he doesn't have, like maybe some wholesalers, they give you a line of credit or somebody else's assets. Sorry, wholesalers, like, you know what I'm saying. But as a realtor, I would have to suggest that my client vet a few different offers instead of going directly with one person. It's just the numbers game. If you have multiple people, you have more eyes on the property. They're gonna get more money for the property. So, but maybe they're like, hey, I don't want to show it to a lot of people. I want to show it to one or two people. I'm okay selling to an investor, a cash buyer. Then hey, I'm going to go to my Rolodex. I'm going to talk to all the investors that I've worked with that I know they're cash buyers, that I know have closed properties, that I know they're the ones going to be the end buyer, and fix and flip it or do whatever they're going to do, and explain the situation. Hey, I have this seller. They only want to show it to somebody that truly wants to close. Here's the property address. Do your due diligence. Is this something that you truly want to buy? And if so, we can actually schedule a time for you to look at it, you know?
Yeah.
Or hey, you got to place an offer, and the offer's got to be accepted in order for you to inspect the property, so that we know that you're serious, that you're a serious buyer. You got to send your offer and your proof of funds, or your financing or whatever, so that the seller knows they're not wasting their time and that you're a true buyer and really want to buy the property. All those scenarios can be worked out, and we do the heavy lifting for the client.
That's what we do.
That's it. That's it. So, anyways, any questions, guys? Leave us a comment, send us a DM. Um, in the description, you have mine and Lorenzo's Instagram. You can DM us anytime. I'll put our email in there too. Send us a question via email, and we'll try to get back to you and get some answers for you. Right now, we're going to move on to some listener questions. I believe you had a listener question.
Yes. So I got an interesting one here. So this one is from Ravi out in Artesia, and he wants to get our thoughts on REITs, specifically e-REITs like Fundrise or Collab. So for those of you who don't know, a REIT is a real estate investment trust, and these are companies that are going to manage some real estate investments for their clients. It's a way to invest that's, a little more hassle free, i.e., you don't have to pay a monthly mortgage. You don't have to get your hands dirty as a landlord or managing a specific project, because you're going to get someone to manage those specific assets for you.
Yeah.
So Gerardo, what are your thoughts on REITs? Is this a good investment? So should somebody go out and use this as something that generates income for them?
So a REIT is kind of like it's like something that you can invest in, like a stock market, right?
Exactly.
So I guess I can say this first: I'm not a financial advisor, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I so with that said, I myself don't invest in REITs, but from what I know about them, it's definitely a more passive way to invest in real estate when you're where you're not the person. Maybe like let's just say you want to invest in rentals. And if you're buying the asset, you got to either pay a property manager. And even if you do pay a property manager, there's certain things where you have to be involved in and things like that. So, this investing in a REIT is a more passive way where you're not the person directly dealing with managing the asset per se, or even have to worry about any of that and still be able to make a return on your money and maybe invest a smaller amount than would be necessary to actually purchase a home, right? I would suggest talking to an experienced financial advisor that knows REITs very well and maybe looking at some historical returns on specific or different REITs and see which one benefits you the most and make a decision from there if that makes sense, or or if a different asset makes more sense if you're going to be investing in the stock market, or if it makes more sense to uh, purchase the hard asset itself and manage it on your end, or figure out how to invest in it that way. But uh, from the outside perspective, it's like, yes, it's a more passive way to invest in real estate. Just do your due diligence, talk to people that are experienced in that segment of investing, and compare notes. And so you can make a good decision from there. I can't speak to whether they're good or bad. I myself like holding hard assets. Right? I like something tangible, something real, something that I can feel, smell, look at. So I don't invest in REITs myself, but I know a lot of people that do and people that make money on it. So I'm not gonna say that they might not be a good investment. It's just definitely do your homework and talk to some professionals that can give you some more insight on it. And obviously, power of the internet. There's a lot of reading that you can do, YouTube videos, podcasts, and all that stuff to get more information. So that would be my suggestion on that.
For sure. Yeah. Obviously, as real estate agents, we definitely like the idea of tangible assets,
Yeah.
for sure, and a tangible asset that you get appreciation from. I mean, I think that's the whole reason why we're in this game, and you and I invest
Yeah.
is because you can hold a tangible asset in Southern California that, in year after year is going to get 3, 5, 7% appreciation yearly.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like you, amigo. I think it's a good investment opportunity if you don't mind giving up control, and especially if you're going to put up a significant amount of capital to invest in it. It's a long term. It's a passive type of strategy, and I know diversifying is the name of the game when you are dealing with more passive income that you want somebody else to manage. But speak to your financial advisor to get, I think, more detailed information on it.
Yes, definitely. And to wrap it up, I know I dropped the ball on maybe a second funny real estate story, but I believe you got a good one for us now, and I'm gonna make sure I have a good one for
Yeah.
us next week. So what do you got? What do you got for me, Lorenzo?
All
UFO
right. All
type
right.
stuff? Extra? What are we working with here?
So let me preface this by I'm not a believer in ghosts, but I'm a skeptical guy, right? Um, so the first year that I was in the business, as usual, my first years, I met this agent,
Hmm.
older agent. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you?
You got cut off a
Okay.
little bit, at least on my end. You said you're not a believer in ghost, but
But I'm skeptical. Yeah.
okay, okay,
Um, so the first year in the business, I met this older agent who hated doing open houses. And obviously, as a first year agent, I was willing to do whatever it took. So I offered to host whenever she needed.
okay,
And so she hit me up one week and goes, "Hey, this weekend I have an open house. Don't want to do it. Can you do it for me?" I said yes. So Saturday rolls around and I call her up and I ask, like, "Hey, are there any details about the property that I should know? That way, in case anybody comes in, I can give it to them. And she hesitated and goes, well, the house shows fine, but there was a death on the property.
Oh,
But it was peaceful. It was a peaceful death. And I was like, whatever, it doesn't bother me. I've been through houses with deaths on them prior. Um,
yeah.
so I get to the property. I set up all my signs around the neighborhood and outside, and I walk
I'm
into the
losing you. I'm
property,
losing you.
and
I don't want to
dude,
miss the story.
immediately, like my
Wait,
hair
hold on.
stained.
Hold on. Let's take a step back. So you get to the property and what?
So I set up all the signs around the neighborhood,
Okay.
and
Open
I
house
do
signs.
that. I get to the door, and I open it, and immediately, as soon as I get into the house, like I get chills. The hair stands up on the back of my neck, and I'm just like, damn, I can't tell if it's just me because I know there's a death in there, but I feel like somebody's watching me immediately. So
Really?
I do my tour around the house myself just to kind of check it out, open windows, blah blah blah. And because I got there early, I'm eating a breakfast burrito inside, and I just there's just this weird feeling behind me, and it was a super slow open house,
Of course.
and
You by
yeah,
yourself.
and I'm by I'm sitting there watching YouTube because nobody's on there, and a light in the living room goes on, and like I look, and I'm like, oh man. So I go over there, and I check it out, and I go, well, it could be on a timer, whatever. It's what can I do? So I brushed it off, but it was creepy. And like 10 or 15 minutes later, I hear whoosh, what, and I was like, what? So someone closed the door. So
What
I get
door?
out of the living room, and I look down there, and sure enough, one of the bedroom doors now is closed.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my god, dude, like I'm tripping. Maybe something happened. It's an old house, whatever. I go over there and I open it, and then when I get back to the living room, the blinds are moving now, like almost like
in
someone
the
just
living
kind of like
room.
in the living room, like someone just like brushed over the blinds with their hands.
Oh my goodness.
So I was a little on edge, so I started hanging out outside. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm gonna stay outside. But a couple ends up wanting to come in to view the home. So
You're like, good
it's
luck.
yeah, it's all out here.
Yeah.
Um, well, the couple goes through, and it's kind of for lack of a better word, kind of a hippie couple.
Okay.
But I get inside, and I'm talking to them, and the girlfriend or the wife goes, "Hey, I feel an energy, a presence here. Did someone pass away in the home?"
She said
And I
that.
was like, she said that, and I was like, yeah, unfortunately the owner passed away, and she goes, oh, okay, don't worry, she's friendly. And then they left. And I didn't know what to do. That was the only people that came through the property was that couple.
So she had some
And
insight on the energy that she felt.
I guess so. And
Wow.
you know, I don't know. So I'm skeptical, but stuff happened. And for this person to come out and do that, to say that, I was like, maybe, hopefully she is friendly.
Wow, bro.
So, first
Oh,
year in the business, man, it was crazy.
that is that's a story, dude. Oh, gives me chills just thinking about it. I'm over here in the office by myself. I'm like checking who's walking out there. Hey, 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 take it easy. So, yeesh. But what's crazy is the person that walked in as well was able to
Yeah,
sense it right away and give you insight on the energy and whether they were friendly or not. That's all around, man. All around.
right.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was it was weird, and I had to host it the next day. Nothing happened the following day. No one showed up. No weird things, but that was it.
And did people go see it?
No, that was the one
No.
couple that went in 2 days.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is crazy. You're like, don't call me for next weekend. I'm out of here. Well, that was a great story, man. You never disappoint. So hopefully everybody got some insight on selling your home fast. Obviously, we can only kind of touch on so many scenarios and so many situations in 1 hour. But like I mentioned earlier, shoot us a DM, send us a message, send us an email. We'll try to get back to you with the answering some questions. And yeah, man, good talking to you as always. And we'll catch each other on the next one, brother.
All right, brother, man. As usual.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Catch you later,
Later,
brother.
brother.